You guys really enjoyed the last video I did on reacting to setups from Reddit. So I've decided to make this into a series and upload it in between my regular Setup Wars content. So with that said, today I'll be looking at the all-time best gaming setups from the Battlestations subreddit. Let's begin. Take your Battlestation to the next level with the Corsair Xeneon Flex, the world's first bendable OLED gaming monitor. With a blazing fast 240Hz refresh rate and a 0.03 millisecond response time on a massive 45-inch OLED display, you can take your gaming and productivity to the next level. Do you prefer to game on a curved display? No problem. Just grab the handles and bend the monitor. You have complete control on the curvature of the monitor. The OLED panel provides the best colors with deep blacks and exceptional viewing angles, perfect for watching content and creating content. The Xeneon Flex is the ultimate monitor that does it all. To learn more, click the link below. Okay, we're gonna start literally at the bottom and make our way to the setup with the highest amount of votes. Kicking off the episode is the one and only Nene with her revised Battlestation that just got over 10K votes. I'm honestly not surprised her setup was featured on here. She did take home the seal of approval back in episode 192 many years ago with her original setup that blew up the internet. And then she came back on the show, I think a year later, or later that year, on episode 214 with a completely revamped setup. The creativity and originality that she brings onto her setups is why she has earned the title of the setup queen. I actually don't know if that's what they're calling her, but that's what I'm calling her. I also consider her a really close friend, so it's nice to always bump into her setup once in a while. 10 out of 10 setup for me. So this is pretty much what every gamer does when they move into a new place. A true gamer. Before any furniture is assembled, they gotta put together the setup. So this guy definitely has his priorities straight. Although I feel like the setup is missing a few boxes. You gotta at least get it off the floor, my guy. There is no way you can use a setup laying down on the ground. I know the picture is most likely just for clout, and it clearly worked considering he got over 10K votes, but it's simply unfinished. 1 out of 10. This next person is certainly getting the D. Lots of it. Vitamin D, that is. With a direct slap in the face with those sun rays. I could imagine the sun glare being a nuisance very fast. I feel like you have to either wear sunglasses while using the setup or limit the sun exposure to a few minutes per day. But you know what? I love the vibes. No RGB, extremely clean and minimalistic setup. I gotta give it a 7. Okay, this one's actually pretty sick. My guy built a wood PC case to match the wood desk and it's water cooled. That's pretty damn cool. It's such a nice build too, but the setup itself is a bit questionable. I just don't like how close he is to the TV. Look at the distance between the edge of the desk and the TV. That can't be good for your eyes or your neck. I gotta give points on the cable management since he routed the keyboard and mouse cable through the desk. But I gotta give it an 8 though, simply because of the PC mod. I haven't seen that anywhere. This next one got 10.2K votes and I kinda see it. It's a clean setup. We got 2 ultra-wide monitors spaced out, speakers on stands, all the gear is nicely organized, and we got the PC in the corner with a bit of decoration as well. I mean, this setup checks all the boxes. It's gotta be a 9 for me. I kinda see why this one also got 10.2K votes, but also there's really nothing exciting about it. It's the usual cookie cutter IKEA setups that we normally see, but he did personalize the setup very well. And I do love the speaker location. Wasn't this on Setup Wars though? I swear I remember featuring this, but I can't remember which episode. I remember the vinyl player, but maybe you guys can let me know in the comment section if you remember the episode number. But this is an 8 for me. This is the first time I've actually seen a monitor layout like this, and honestly, I'm not against it. But I feel like you should have at least tilted the bottom one at an angle so it's more comfortable to look at. But aside from that, I mean, it's a pretty kick-ass setup. I do like the mic placement as well. I'm just not a fan of the acoustic panels. It looks very simple, but it's an 8 out of 10 for me regardless. This was a pretty sweet entertainment setup. He's got an 82-inch Samsung QLED TV with an insane sound system. Those look like the Jamo S809 floor speakers, and he's got a few more speakers laying sideways right beside the couch. Can you guys imagine gaming on that couch with that surround system? This was on Setup Wars. I remember now because of the setup over there in the corner. I remember because of the straw material that was used to make the TV stand and also the backdrop for his setup. What a pleasant reminder. I feel like we're gonna see some classic setups on here from the show. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. I feel suffocated just by looking at this picture. You can clearly see the side panels are taken off from the PCs, probably because both PCs are thermal throttling. from the amount of heat that's generated by both of these setups. I don't even see any vents up top, so I would assume this place gets pretty toasty. They would definitely save money during the winter, but in the summer, I really hope their AC can reach the attic or wherever this room is in. Nonetheless, it's a very wholesome setup for me. It's a 7 out of 10. This one's a clean setup. I love the LED strip integration in the wall shelf. My guess is that he drilled a hole in the shelf to pass through an LED strip and possibly ran the cable through the wall. If so, that's a lot of effort just to add an LED strip. Very impressive. The speaker cables are obviously ran through the wall as well, but the dedication kind of stops there because the monitor is mounted to the desk and you can see the cables underneath it. I just wish he stayed committed to the whole wireless look, especially since he has the skills to pull off something this creative. It's still an 8 out of 10 for me. Very clean setup. Finally, a monochrome setup. I love how clean and organized this setup looks. Although I would have flipped the vertical monitor so the thicker bezel is on the outside. This way you still have access to the menu buttons if they're in the center of the monitor, but also this way you can minimize the bezels between both displays. But other than that, you got a pretty clean PC and a very clean setup. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. My dude spent more money on the nanoleaf panels than his actual setup. Probably. I don't know the exact amount, but that definitely looks like at least $2,000 worth of panels. Look, I got nothing against the overpriced nanoleaf panels. I even did something similar with my last setup, if you guys remember. But you should have used that budget for a better chair, at least, right? It's not to say this is a bad setup. I still think it looks pretty damn epic, but you could have been at least a little more creative on the nanoleaf design instead of stacking them like Tetris. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. How did this setup even get 10.5K votes? What in the jungle book am I even looking at? This setup looks terrible, I'm sorry guys. And it belongs to a PUBG player. Why am I surprised? Awesome view, but the setup needs some work, my guy. It's a 5 out of 10. This setup looks fascinating for some reason. It's got the Joker color scheme, which I really like. Or I guess Lex Luthor, Green Goblin, Hulk, or even Thanos. It depends on what comic book character you prefer. But it's a very unusual layout. It looks like he's an artist of some sort, and I would imagine this is the type of setup you would go for if you're drawing on a massive screen. I don't know, I just love how the colors pop for some reason. The green screen in the front with the purple and green lighting give this setup a unique look. But I'm gonna remove a point for the finger in the picture, I'm sorry. Bruh. It's 6 out of 10 for me. Psychosity is up next. Psychosity? I think it's Psychosity. This setup is very satisfying to look at. I just love how perfectly he aligned the top two monitors with the Super Ultrawide. I feel like this is hands down the best triple monitor layout if you're going with a Super Ultrawide as your main. I feel like if you put the two extra monitors vertically on the outer edge of your Super Ultrawide, they're out of your field of view and they're a bit too far from you. So I feel like the next best option would be to do what Psychosity did. Basically, flip them sideways and put them on top of the Super Ultrawide. I just wish he turned the PC on so we can look at the wallpaper, but I would say this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. It could use some more personality or decor. Yo, now this is a setup. God damn. I love, love, love that backboard. It looks like he used two Carbly countertops, one for the table, one for the backboard. This is such a clean setup. Perfect speaker placement. Top monitor is flipped upside down to minimize bezels. All the cables are drilled through the desk. And ladies and gents, the PC is mounted on the wall over there on the left side. I mean, this is a perfect setup. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Well done. This dude really wanted a pod gaming setup. You know, I love the ingenuity that went into this. I feel like this is that one setup from the last video, but on steroids. I wonder what he could possibly use this setup for. And please don't tell me Roblox. The monitor alignment just ruins it for me. I'm sorry. I feel like he should have gone with a few curved monitors for that seamless infinity look. And I also think the amount of money he spent on the setup, he could have just bought a pod gaming setup. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Okay, this setup has to be Brendan's setup from episode 232. I recognize that monitor layout from anywhere. I just don't get the angle of this picture. It doesn't really do the setup justice. I'll show you guys what the room actually looks like from a different angle. So this one was actually one of my favorite setups from 2021. The side table on the second setup actually folds down to free up space for VR gaming. Fun fact, this setup was actually Brendan's third submission on Setup Wars, and he took home the seal of approval. Well-deserved, 10 out of 10. Oh my God. Literally the setup right above that was also featured on Setup Wars 5 years ago. I remember this because of the shelf that he used for the setup. and the very clean cable routing from the back. I had no idea this was even on the front page of Reddit until now. The only downside to this setup is that you have to use it while standing up because the bottom shelves won't let you sit on a chair. I would say a 7 out of 10 is a fair rating for this, don't you think? I legit thought this was a render at first. It looks so freaking clean. The quality of the photo is crisp. The setup itself is also really nice. It's just a bit too empty for me, but I love how perfect the monitors are aligned. It also looks like he's rocking dual PCs, but he left them on carpet, which is a no-no. At least put like a piece of wood underneath it to prevent dust and dirt buildup. Personally, I think you should have put both PCs on the desk because you do have the space for it, and maybe even do an inverted build for the other PC, just for symmetry reasons. Just like Robin's setup from episode 320. You can't tell me those mirrored custom PCs didn't look spicy. It's definitely a great start, but I feel like it's unfinished. 7 out of 10 for me. I got wood just by looking at this setup, and I'm not talking about a trip to Home Depot either. Jokes aside, I legit thought this was a custom wall built out of wooden hexagon panels, but if you look closely, it's actually wallpaper. But that still doesn't take away the fact that it looks dope. I would just put the monitors on stands so they're a bit higher from the desk, but other than that, it's a pretty nice setup. 7 out of 10. I like this setup. What's impressive here is that the setup itself is pretty freaking badass. We got triple monitors with a speaker mounted on the top and 3DR panels with some lighting behind it. I mean, it's such a clean setup, but the guns. I mean, you gotta protect your virginity, right? All jokes aside, absolutely badass collection of arsenal, and it looks like he's locked and loaded, judging by the ammo containers on the bottom. This is one person you don't wanna mess with. Imagine breaking into this person's home and you see this setup. You're definitely busting a 180 and you are hauling out of there as fast as possible. But what's with the random framed picture? Who is that? Okay, apparently it's Alex Zedra, and she's a character from Call of Duty. Is that like your idol or something? It's just so random to be there. Also, I don't know if that's even legal in the state that you're from, but you're technically supposed to lock your guns in a safe. If someone knows where you live, that's an easy target for theft. That's like what, probably 10 grand worth of weapons? I'm just saying. But the setup itself, it's a 9 out of 10. This is a sick setup. Wow. The color consistency from this setup is out of this world. I love the black wall with the wood accents. They complement each other so well. Beautiful work on the custom wall shelves with the rustic pipes. The monitor riser also looks like it's custom made. And the setup is powered by one of my all-time favorite cases, the Motif Monument, if you guys remember. Nothing in this setup stands out like a sore thumb. Everything blends in so well together. The artwork on the wall that's centered beautifully above the monitor. Everything is symmetrical. I mean, it's perfectly executed. It's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Phenomenal work. Ladies and gentlemen, we found Alfred. This is modern day Alfred's setup, watching over Bruce Wayne and Gotham City. I love that there is barely any desk space. And look at how freaking close he sits to the monitors. That can't be good for his eyes or spine for that matter. I really hope those 4 monitors are not attached to that flimsy desk. One small earthquake will end this man's career, assuming he has one. What could you possibly use this many monitors for if you don't work at the local TV station? I count 16 monitors, but I only see one PC. How in Medusa's cleavage is he even powering all these displays? I'm so lost. I can smell this setup just from this picture. It looks so unsanitary. This dude is probably a Discord mod on 100 servers and a part-time hacker. It's the only explanation. I'm pretty sure this guy never leaves his house. This setup looks like his life. I have to give it a 5 out of 10 though. It needs more monitors. This setup is like the Swiss Army knife of all setups. This guy literally has one of each type of setup. Gaming setup, music making and photo editing setup, and a racing sim setup. Looks like the only thing he's missing is actually a VR setup. Oh wait, no. He's got a VR setup right there. What? He's never leaving this room. But then again, who would? This is like an arcade, but with setups. You know what though? He didn't do a bad job putting it together. I mean, there's a mess of cables over there in the corner, but overall, I would say it's maintained nicely and it's organized. Ah, yes, here is one for the nature lovers out there. If you're a plant setup kind of guy, you might appreciate this one. I do love the fake plant wall and the built-in aquarium displays that he built. It kind of feels like an exhibition. Or, what's that word actually? Museum. It kind of feels like a museum. Why the hell did I say exhibition? He's got a nice view as well. Perfectly placed speakers, clean cable work. I mean, it's a beautiful setup. What more can I say? I remember when these striped walls were so popular back then. Everyone and their mothers were doing it, and it looked so cool at the time. But I feel like this aged like fine milk. This setup was done 3 years ago, so the timing of it makes sense, but it just seems like it's too busy, doesn't it? Maybe if he did that on one of the walls, it wouldn't have looked so busy, but that's just my personal preference, by the way. I don't know how people still get upset when I give my opinions on setups. Like, you guys do know you're watching a video of a guy giving his opinion on setups, right? Setups are subjective, you guys. Everyone has different personalities, different preferences. Just because I say something doesn't mean it's carved onto the 10 commandments. It's my opinion and my opinion only. I feel like I should put a disclaimer in the beginning of all of my setup content just for clarification. But yeah, this is a very nice setup nonetheless, 8 out of 10 for me. I bet my blistering hemorrhoid that this setup got this many votes because of the dog. Pets will always add a few thousand votes to your setup. So always, always, always include a picture of your pet alongside a photo of your setup. That's not to say the setup is bad. I actually like the setup a lot. It's got a really good balance of function and form. The cables could use a bit more work, and I'm not too big of a fan of the middle monitor being a different size, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. And ladies and gents, we are ending the video with my boy Marijan and his mesmerizing setup. I had no idea you were on here, my guy. Well deserved on 11.4K votes, by the way. This setup was seriously something else. He got featured back in episode 231, I believe, which was over a year ago, and he took home the 35th seal of approval. I just love the amount of synergy in this setup. Every piece of gear had purpose, and the cable management on a sit and stand desk, I mean, come on. No brainer, he took home the seal. Okay, we're leaving off on 11.4K votes, and we'll continue climbing up the ladder on the next episode, and I encourage you guys to follow along because it's gonna get spicy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one.